Story 3. I've never liked clowns ever since I was young. They were just creepy, and overall they just freaked me out. But I didn't think one would ever make me actually fear for my life. I was driving home late one night from my friend's house. It was close to 1 a.m., and the roads were completely empty. I live in a pretty quiet area with a lot of woods around, so the drive was dark, lit only by the glow of my headlights. I was about 10 minutes from my house and I was just listening to some music. I noticed something strange on the side of the road, a figure standing completely still. As I got closer, I saw it was a man dressed in a clown suit, with bright red hair, white face paint, and an exaggerated smile painted across his mouth. He was just staring. I slowed down instinctively, and for a split second our eyes met. He didn't move, didn't wave, he just stared at me with this cold, lifeless expression. The weirdest part? He was holding a long metal rod in one hand. Feeling a shiver down my spine, I hit the gas and kept going, trying to shake off the strange encounter. But about a mile down the road, I saw him again. Same clown suit, same metal rod, standing there as if he'd been waiting for me. My stomach dropped. There was no way he could have gotten here faster than my car. I didn't slow down this time, just sped past him, my heart racing. I tried to tell myself it was some kind of Halloween prank or a weird coincidence, but something felt off. I was almost home when, out of nowhere, my phone vibrated with a message from an unknown number. It was just one word: turn around. I didn't. I drove home, locked all my doors, and spent the rest of the night awake, listening for any sign that he'd followed me. The next morning, I checked my phone again, but the message was gone. No record of it in my history, no number to trace. To this day, I have no idea who that clown was or how he managed to be in two places at once. But later on that day, I was making dinner, and I had the news on in the background, and I overheard the news reporter talk about clown sightings in the woods. I drove past, and apparently there was reports of missing people. So I'm just glad I continued to drive and not stop to see what was happening. Story 2. Remember a few years ago when clowns were a big thing and there have been many reports of clowns luring children into the forest? I was one of the first to experience this, and it was utterly terrifying. I want to remain anonymous at the moment just in case the clown finds out who I am. Anyways, here's what happened. I am 14 years old and live in a small town in South Carolina. The town has a population of around 130 people. Summer was just about over it, and I had a summer job working at the local lumber yard. It was a great place to work. I helped customers load lumber into their vehicles. A pretty mindless job. Plus, I was able to stay physically fit because of it. The best part is that my house is exactly 1 mile away, walking to and from work. As a daily occurrence, I spent a long day hauling and moving lumber, and I worked. It was pretty much complete. It was about 9:30 p.m. when I started to walk home. The moon was just starting to light up the road, and the sun had completely set below the hills. There are no other houses between the lumberyard and my house. Our town is very rural. The road home has hills that peak high enough that you're unable to see what's on the other side until you crested. The road is skinny with no shoulder, but it was freshly paved. The trees stacked one by one behind each other in a row, and vegetation is thick with a few game trails coming out to the road. Crickets and frogs sound like an orchestra. The walk home usually takes about 30 minutes. I've done it so many times that I entertain myself with music. I put in my earbuds, throw on some tunes, and away I went. I was about halfway home when I heard what sounded like a high-pitched cackling laughs. The hell was that? I said to myself out loud. I took out my earbuds and stopped. I thought maybe it was part of the music, but something about it didn't fit into the song. I stood there motionless, looking to hear the same sound again. However, the frogs croaking were so loud that not even a scream could be heard. I thought nothing of it and walked home. The next day, I started my shift at 2 p.m. I started my walk to work around 1:30. Nothing was out of the ordinary. It was a beautiful day. I usually look down at my feet and kick any rocks that I see. Having them skip across the fresh pavement was oddly satisfying. I kicked a rock and it skipped across the pavement and landed next to something strange laying in the dirt on the side of the road. It looked to be a bright red ball. I picked it up, I gave it a little pressure and it squeaked immediately. I knew what it was. This is a clown nose. I said to myself, what the hell is this doing out here? I kept it. and carried it to work to show the other staff members. I even put it on and gave it some honks. It got a few laughs. The day went on as usual, and around 9:30 p.m. I clocked out and began my long walk home. I forgot my earbuds at home, so I was unable to listen to my usual music. While on my way home, I was able to make out a faint image of a figure about 150 yards away, of what looks like a deer standing in the middle of the road. It was hard to make out as the fog covered over the grounds and the moonlight buckle at the animal. As I got within 100 yards, it must have gotten spooked. I could see a rough outline scamper back into the forest. Little did I know this was not a deer, but something more sadistic. I passed the spot in which the deer had taken off back into the woods. As I walked by, I heard footsteps about 20 yards behind me. I thought this was strange, as I've never seen a deer come back onto the road. Once it was scared off, before I could look back, I heard, "Hey there." I turned my head to see a clown standing in the middle of the road with his hands behind his back. He wore baggy pants and a baggy shirt that was obviously meant to be a clown costume, but it was very dirty, so dirty that the colors faded into stains. His makeup ran down his face and his eyes were black. He tilted his head to the side and said, "You have something of mine. I need it back." He gave a small little laugh after he spoke. I don't have anything of yours," I said as I started to walk backwards. My house was still a quarter-mile away. This is when the situation went from odd to terrifying. He said, "Well then, if you don't have my nose, I'm gonna need yours." He pulled something out from behind his back, and I'm not gonna lie, it looks like a machete. I turned around, and with all my might I'd take off running down the middle of the road. I could hear his bare feet running. I didn't look back as it could slow me down. The blades of what I assumed were two machetes dragged on the asphalt. I was in great shape, but I could still hear his footsteps getting louder, signaling he was getting closer to me. He would even let out a little giggle that would feed my adrenaline even more. My lungs started to burn. I began to crest the hill. At this moment, I could hear him almost right behind me, just about touching me. And then out of nowhere, a truck crests the hill with his headlights shining on me. I waved my arms in sheer panic. He stopped. I quickly looked behind me to see nothing. No clown. I told the man in the truck what happens, and he called the police. I will never make that walk again. I have no idea how the clown got to that location and why he waited for me. I have never seen any vehicles parked there, nor are there any other houses besides mine for miles. This was my worst nightmare come true. Now I found out that this is happening to more people, clowns hiding in the woods and stalking people. Is this a cult? A group of scary clowns with a goal to terrify people? I have no idea, but I do know that I'll never be able to walk in the dark or see clowns the same way again. Story 3. This happened not that long ago. I went to the grocery store one night that was kind of near my house. It was only like 10 minutes away. I was inside the grocery store for maybe 30 minutes. Inside, things were not very busy, and it was maybe 9:00 p.m. When I left the grocery store, I went back to my car, which was parked at about the middle of the parking lot. There were cars scattered all around, but not too many. I noticed that there was a car parked right next to mine, though that wasn't there before. I only really noticed it because there were lots of open spaces around it. Car parked next to mine was a silver-colored sedan. I didn't pay it much attention and started loading my groceries into the back of my car. But when I was just about done, I glanced over at the car that was parked next to me and noticed somebody sitting in the driver's seat. It appeared to be a man, and he was wearing a clown mask. This mask in particular was really creepy looking. It wasn't one of those cheap ones, but it really detailed one. I didn't know why he was wearing it because it wasn't anywhere near Halloween. It just seemed kind of random and odd. He wasn't looking at me though. I put my cart back and then went to my driver's door and got inside. It was then that I looked over and noticed that the clown guy was looking right at me from inside his car. He didn't wave or move or anything, but was just staring in my direction. I smiled at him, figuring that it was some kind of a joke. Then I started my engine and drove away. As soon as my car started, he started his car as well. When I began driving, he did the same. I watched his car follow mine to the end of the parking lot, and I was worried immediately. It seemed like this clown guy was trying to follow me. I left the parking lot and went onto a quiet road, and then that one took me to a busier one. The clown drove behind me the whole way. The roads were pretty quiet, with it being later at night. There was not a good chance that he could get stuck in traffic trying to follow me or something. If it was rush hour, that might have been a possibility. Instead, he easily stayed on my tail as I drove down the highway after maybe 5 minutes there. I was getting worried of what I would do. I couldn't let this guy follow me all the way back home. So when I was driving, I called my boyfriend to tell him the situation. He was really confused when I told him a clown was following me on the highway. He thought I was joking at first and started laughing. I told him that I was serious, and this was not a joke. Still, he didn't seem to take it as serious as I was. I told him that I was going to drive to his house. My boyfriend's house is about 5 minutes away from mine. He said that was fine with him and told me not to worry about it. I did feel a little bit better knowing he wasn't too concerned, but still this clown guy was really creeping me out. It's one thing to dress as a clown later at night, but it's another to follow somebody home. Several minutes later, I exited the highway followed by the clown. Then I took a quiet road for about a mile before the turnoff for my boyfriend's street. When I turned, the clown behind me did as well. The street was very quiet at this time of night. My boyfriend's house was about halfway down the street and on the right side. When I reached it, I began pulling into the driveway. It seemed as though the clown was going to do the same thing. That's when I saw the door to the house open and my boyfriend running out. He was wearing a clown mask of his own, one that he wore at a Halloween party a couple of years ago. He was holding a yellow wiffle ball bat as well and waving it around like a crazy person. The clown in the car behind me started pulling into the driveway and then stopped. My boyfriend was screaming like a madman and went running straight for the clown's car behind me. Then the clown backed out and drove away before my boyfriend could reach him. I got out of the car and asked my boyfriend if he was out of his mind. I couldn't believe what he was doing. He took his mask off and started laughing, calling the other clown a wimp for running away. We went inside after that, and I ended up being really glad that he did that. It could have been extremely dangerous, though. Who knows who that guy in the clown mask was and what he wanted. Maybe that was just his way of disguising himself, and me being a young woman, he was trying to stalk me. I'm really not sure, but I'm glad that my boyfriend considered the whole thing one big joke. He told me that he thought of the idea when I told him I was going to his place. He remembered the clown mask and thought he would out-clown the clown. I'm really glad that it worked. Thanks for watching. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. And let me know if you have a scary true story you want to share. Let me know in the email down below. I am trying to reach 1K subscribers by the 1st of January 2025. So help out and tell your friends. Love you, Horror Mafia. Until next time, have a good one.